Muhammad Ali once faced the most terrifying question of his life, not from a world champion, not from a rival in the ring, from an 8-year-old girl dying of cancer. Live on television, she asked him, "When you die, will you remember me in heaven?" 3 million people watched the greatest fighter on earth break down in tears. But what happened next? A secret promise, 15 years of hidden visits, and a letter written with trembling hands that would redefine what greatness truly means. This isn't a boxing story. This is the story of the promise Muhammad Ali never broke. Muhammad Ali was in the middle of a live television interview when the studio phone rang. On the other end was an 8-year-old girl battling cancer. She had one question for her hero. When she asked it, Ali crumbled, on camera. The broadcast halted. Nearly 3 million viewers watched the most formidable man in boxing dissolve into tears. What no one understood then was this: that single question would echo inside him for the rest of his life. It was October 12, 1982. Ali appeared on The Morning Show, a lively daytime program airing from Chicago. At 40, he had been retired from boxing for just over a year. His speech had begun to soften and falter, early tremors of the Parkinson's disease that would later define his final chapters, though no formal diagnosis had yet been announced. The segment was meant to be buoyant, nostalgic reflections, retirement plans, perhaps a magic trick or two. Ali adored astonishing children with sleight of hand. The host, Barbara Reynolds, kept the mood effervescent. The audience was eager. Everything flowed as rehearsed. 15 minutes in, during a commercial break, a producer approached Reynolds with a handwritten note. She scanned it, eyebrows lifting, then nodded. When they returned to air, she turned to Ali. "Muhammad, there's someone on the phone who's been trying to reach you for weeks. Her name is Sarah. She's 8. She's calling from Children's Hospital." Ali straightened instantly. "Put her on." The line crackled through the speakers. A fragile, breathy voice filled the studio. "Mr. Ali, is that really you?" "Yes, sweetheart. This is Muhammad Ali. What's your name?" Sarah Matthews. I'm 8 years old. I have leukemia." Silence descended like a curtain. Even the air felt suspended. Reynolds searched for words and found none. Ali's eyes were already shimmering. "Sarah," he said softly, "thank you for calling me. You're very brave. I watch your fights with my daddy. You're my favorite. You always win." He offered a melancholy smile. "Not always, honey. I lost some fights too. But you never quit. Daddy says you're the greatest because you never give up. Your daddy sounds like a wise man." On the line, Sarah struggled for breath. Speaking exhausted her, yet she pressed on. "Mr. Ali, I have a question." "Anything. You ask me anything." A pause, longer this time. Somewhere in a hospital room hundreds of miles away, a little girl gathered the courage that cancer had demanded of her daily. "Mr. Ali," she whispered, voice fracturing, "when you die, will you remember me in heaven?" The words struck him like a body blow. His mouth opened, nothing emerged. Tears welled and spilled freely. His hands trembled harder, the early Parkinson's amplifying the moment's gravity. In the audience, people wept openly. Cameras continued their relentless gaze. He tried to respond. "Sarah, His voice splintered. The man who had faced down Sonny Liston and George Foreman, who had defied governments and destiny alike, could not answer an 8-year-old child. He covered his face and sobbed. The director cut to commercial. The final image before the break, Muhammad Ali shaking with tears. During the break, Reynolds knelt beside him. "We can end it here." "No," he said, wiping his cheeks. "Get her back. I need to answer." When they resumed, his eyes were crimson but resolute. "Sarah, are you still there?" "Yes. Did I make you sad?" "No, baby. You made me think about something important." He inhaled deeply. "When I get to heaven, and I hope that's a long, long time from now, do you know what I'm going to do first?" "What?" "I'm going to look for you. And when I find you, we're going to float like butterflies. No pain, no sickness, just floating together. How does that sound?" "That sounds really nice, Mr. Ali. And I want you to promise me something. Fight this cancer like I fought in the ring. Be brave, be strong, never give up." "I promise. And I promise I will never forget you. Not in this life, not in the next. You matter. You're a champion too." The interview ended soon after. The applause that followed was not celebratory. It was reverent. 3 days later, Ali quietly entered Children's Hospital in Boston. No press, no entourage, no spectacle. This was personal. He found Sarah asleep in the pediatric oncology ward. Chemotherapy had claimed her hair, her small frame pale and fragile. He waited without waking her. After an hour, she opened her eyes. "You came," she whispered. "I keep my promises." For 2 hours, he performed magic tricks, told stories, let her hold his Olympic gold medal. He coaxed laughter from her, real laughter, something her parents hadn't heard in weeks. Before leaving, he knelt beside her. "If heaven gets you before it gets me, save me a spot, and when I arrive, we'll float like butterflies. I'll save you the best spot." He kissed her forehead. In the hallway, unseen, he wept again. Sarah Matthews died on November 3, 1982,
22 days after that call, she was laid to rest in Oak Hill Cemetery in Newton, Massachusetts. At her funeral, her father read a letter she dictated in her final days. It thanked Ali. It spoke of dreams where she could run without pain. It ended simply, "Don't forget our promise." Ali did not attend. He learned of her death weeks later. "Where is she buried?" he asked. What no one knew for 15 years was that he began visiting her grave regularly. Whenever he was near Boston, he would slip into the cemetery at dawn or dusk, wearing a baseball cap and dark glasses. He would sit for hours. He talked about his children, about Parkinson's, about life, and he apologized for not being able to save her. He brought flowers, a butterfly pin, a small boxing glove, photographs labeled "To Sarah, the real champion." The groundskeeper, Robert Chen, eventually recognized him in 1997 when his sunglasses fell away. He said nothing for nearly 2 decades. He loved that little girl, he later revealed after Ali's death in 2016. He'd release butterflies at her grave and say, "Float like a butterfly. It was the most tender thing I ever saw." In 1997, 15 years after Sarah's passing, Ali made his final visit. His Parkinson's had advanced severely. Walking was arduous, speaking was labored. Yet he came. He brought a letter. In shaky handwriting it read, "Sarah, I kept my promise. I never forgot you. Every butterfly reminds me of you. You were braver than any fighter I faced. The greatest victories aren't in boxing rings. They're in hospital rooms. I love you. We'll float like butterflies. Muhammad Ali." He sealed it in a waterproof container and left it at her grave. When Ali died on June 3, 2016, Sarah's parents attended his funeral in Louisville. They brought every memento he had left over the years. At a private gathering, her mother shared the story publicly for the first time. "He remembered her every day for 34 years, she said. Today, beside Sarah's grave, rests a plaque. Sarah Matthews, 1974-1982, champion, friend of Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly. It was arranged anonymously, but on the day Ali died, an envelope appeared at her grave containing funds for the marker and a note from her friend who never forgot. True greatness is not tallied in titles or belts. It is measured in promises honored, in tears shed for another's pain, in quiet pilgrimages no one sees. An 8-year-old girl once asked a champion if he would remember him in heaven. He answered with a lifetime of remembrance. Heroes are not those who never cry. They are those who cry for the right reasons and keep their word anyway.
Ali fought giants. Men like George Foreman and Sonny Liston were physically imposing, dangerous, relentless. Those fights were brutal, historic, world-defining. And yet, he says an 8-year-old girl with leukemia was braver. Why? Because boxers choose to fight. They train, they prepare. They enter the ring with strategy and strength. Sarah didn't choose cancer. She fought without gloves, without applause, without television lights, without the possibility of victory. Her courage was quiet, involuntary, enduring. Ali understood that kind of bravery differently as he aged and faced Parkinson's himself. He knew what it meant to fight a battle your body is losing. He recognized in her a purity of courage that no championship belt could symbolize. The greatest victories happen in hospital rooms. This line reframes everything about his life. Ali's identity had been built in arenas packed with thousands, the roar of crowds, bright lights, championship belts, global fame. Boxing rings made him immortal. But hospital rooms? Those are private battlegrounds. In hospital rooms, there are no referees, no judges, no scorecards, no crowds chanting your name. Just pain, uncertainty, fear, and endurance. When Ali wrote that the greatest victories happen there, he was redefining what victory means. It's not about defeating an opponent. It's about facing suffering with dignity. Sarah's fight had no trophy, but to him it was greater than any title he ever won. Why this is so profound? Ali was known for boldness, confidence, swagger. "I am the greatest" wasn't just a phrase, it was a declaration. But in this letter, greatness becomes something else entirely. Not dominance, not speed, not power. Compassion, memory, humility. An 8-year-old girl shifted his definition of legacy. Through her question, "Will you remember me?" she altered how one of the most celebrated athletes in history viewed triumph. She made him confront mortality. She made him confront vulnerability. She made him confront the limits of fame. And in doing so, she helped him evolve. The deeper layer. By 1997, Ali was living inside the same kind of battle Sarah had faced, a body slowly betraying him. Parkinson stripped away the physical tools that once made him extraordinary. That letter was not just about remembering her. It was about solidarity. He now understood her fight in a more intimate way. When his handwriting shook across the page, it mirrored the fragility she once endured. When he said she was braver than any fighter he faced, he meant it from experience, not admiration alone. Redefining greatness. For decades, the world called Muhammad Ali the greatest.
But in that letter, he quietly admitted something radical. Greatness is not about winning fights. It's about how you face suffering. It's about keeping promises. It's about remembering someone the world has forgotten. An 8-year-old girl with leukemia became the measuring stick for one of history's most decorated champions. And that transformation, that shift from public glory to private loyalty, may be one of the most powerful victories of his life. Not in a ring, but in a cemetery. With a letter. And a promise kept.